15-piece? A 15-piece? That's what you're gonna give me? But I'm sorry, I thought the Mets season ended the past couple days, because how many of you went out of your way to say, Wardy, this Mets offense is cooked, the slide has begun, they're never gonna win a baseball game, all you casuals that, again, live and die with every single second. How about you just shut you-know-what up and talk about an amazing victory as the Metsies take down the Minnesota Twins. They absolutely slaughtered those gentlemen, and we win this one big time by a final score of 15-2. Spam those W's in the chat, everybody. You know the drill by now. You get a hit, you get a hit, you get a hit, you get a run, you get a run, you get a run. You would quite literally think that we were watching Oprah Winfrey this evening, the way that they were just dishing out free hits, free runs, free homers on Jesse Winker's debut night, which was awesome to see in right field for a bit. Had his first base knock. Jose Quintana, truthfully, is one of, if not my biggest takeaway from today's outing, with how masterful he looked against this Twins team. It's crazy to say that when you score 15 runs, surely my biggest takeaway is not going to be on the pitching front, and yet it is, because I was really impressed with Jose Quintana tonight. We're going to break down Jose. We're going to break down the ball game inning by inning, as we always do. We're going to get into all the key performances on the pitching end. As you see here, Jose Quintana, 6 strong innings. Jose Budo, why did he pitch today? We'll talk about that as well. On the hitting end, again, you get ahead. My goodness, my God, my gracious. The Mets came out swinging, and they never looked back. Let's get into this one. Let's see some donations. Ronnie, thank you so much for the $2 haul. Says, so many bones in the bucket after this 15-piece, you gotta be... You gotta be feeling good, right? And you know what that just reminded me of as I did it? Remember when Michael Irvin did about... If you know, you know. Love to see that. Ronnie, thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. Yoshima with the $2 says, Matt just said F. Salicata, you don't curse us. Appreciate the donation. I saw everything that Sal did with Frank and others today. They made a whole thing out of it, which isn't shocking to me. Scott with the $5 haul says, Mets sent a huge message to Stearns tonight. Let's go get those arms and go for it. You said it best, my man. Shout out all the great members, first chiming in live on a replay. Spam those W's, folks, but let's let it rip as we always do. Before we break down the ball game by any, before we get into all the fun details along with all the latest on the rumor front, because yeah, the trade deadline's tomorrow. Let's let it rip with the official WardyNYM post-game jingle.
Postgame. Postgame. Calling all Met fans, come and join us now. Talking about this game and gonna break it down. It's Mets Postgame.
Shout out to my guys like Greg and Jordan with the official WardyNYM post-game show jingle. You guys know the drill there. Shout out to all my live viewers here on Twitter as well. Hit that like, that follow button, that retweet button. Thank you so much in advance. But please know I will only be interacting per usual with our live viewers here on YouTube today. Shout out Mama Warren, Buzz Talk, Mike. How you doing, everybody? First chiming in. We got my man Seamus McJuggernaut. You know who you are. How are you? Great member as always. Cherno, how you doing? John, great member. We got some donations. Let's get to them. Then let's break down this ball game. I want to rapid fire this fast because so much happened on the offensive end in today's showing. It is no better feeling than when every single batter in the Mets lineup recorded at least one hit today. You know that's a good feeling, and you know you're feeling electric. LT Truno with the $5 haul says, a great supporter, great member Truno, huge Marky V fan. If you know, you know. Every time we get a chance for a Vientos grand slam, he does a smart thing and walks. Quintana with filthiest curves ever. LFGM, what a good day. Yep, Jose Quintana threw his curveball today like 50% of the time and had a ridiculous swing and miss rate in doing so. We're going to talk a bit more about Jose Quintana as I will break it down with my amazing supporter on the channel and a great pitching contributor of mine, Isaac Rothman, that many of you guys know very well. Isaac always relays all the key info, all the little fun numbers that maybe go beyond the eye test when we do our pitching analysis later on in today's segment. So I'm excited for that. Shout out to you, Isaac, as always. Let's see here. Chiefs Gamer, how are you? All my live members. James, how you doing? Rebecca, But Dan, everybody, thank you all so much for taking the time to chime in as we live react together and are about to break down a slaughter, a dominant victory, a curb stomping against those Twins. I'm sorry, many fans. Nothing personal. I love me some Byron Buxton, but you'll know what I love me some even more? The Mets absolutely pistol whipping the Minnesota Twins. CD with the $5 says, only gripe is when the Mets have these lopsided wins. Can they get Lindor and Alonso out of the game? They play every game ideal time to give them rest. I agree with you actually there, CD. They are both very stubborn. So is Harrison Bader that we saw today. Bader didn't want to leave the game after being hit on the foot because he just got back in the lineup, which I appreciate about him being the bulldog that he is and staying in this one. But yeah, I agree with you. If you're in a blowout, we should let the guys rest. But knowing the type of competitors both Lindor and Alonso are, much easier said than done, especially in the case of Lindor. That it ain't gonna happen. If it does happen, it's because you literally held Lindor against as well. Like you locked him back in the clubhouse in the bathroom or something. He can't get out. That's the only way to justify Lindor not playing, even if you're up by like 15, because he just won't let it happen. Daniel Caps, who's a fantastic member on the channel, just threw out 5 gifted memberships. Congratulations to Keto on the membership. Carlos, Scott, Monkey, let's see here, Peen, all you guys, congratulations on now becoming channel members. Thank you so much for that. And my man Dan, thank you so much as always for the endless support, the generosity. We greatly appreciate that. Braves lost today too. Oh, we love to see it, baby. We love to see it. But I digress. I got a lot to get into. We got a fairly short period of time. I'm going to rapid fire the following. Folks, if you want to know the latest on the news or rumor front, we came out with 2 big videos on the channel today. One during the mid-game for the Mets as I was working on it. Blake Snell Mets connection. It's officially official. And since I posted that video, I didn't even realize from a couple hours ago the Mets actually have been in contact with the Giants about Snell. I didn't even note that in the video. So again, another thing to make a note of, that connection is actually legit. It's official now. It's not just kind of rumblings and hearsay. There is some substance to it, if you will. Check that all out. But we're going to break down more on the trade deadline front. We're going to do a complete preview as the second half of today's show. First half will be on the game, reacting, breaking it down. Second half, or at least a quarter of it, will be on the trade deadline, because I know that's what you guys are here for, a lot of you. Not just the 15-2 victory. You want to find out what are the Mets going to do tomorrow. Let's have a discussion. Let's go over all the latest news and rumors as we typically do here on the channel. Eric Roper says, you get a membership, you get a membership, you get a membership, you get a membership. I love it. Damn you, Senga. I know we would love to see Senga back. Oh, James gifts the membership. Thank you so much for that, James. James has gifted a fantastic longtime follower in David West a membership on the channel. James, love you, my man. Appreciate that a lot. And shout out to David on now becoming a new member on the channel. Yoshima with the gifted. Everyone's generous today. Yoshima, I love you, my man. Seriously, thank you so much. Shout out All Things Mets Talk. You are now a member as well. I know you have been in the past. Happy to have you doing it again here thanks to the membership. John with the $2 haul says they're stretching Budo out to be a starter. The Mets pitched Budo today for the purpose of making sure that he is still stretched out if they need to look at him as a starter. Now, am I completely opposed to Jose Budo as a starter? No, not at all. But I am opposed to Jose Budo as a starter if it means that is your internal option and you don't seek external help. Like, you don't land anyone externally. I know how expensive this trade market is, everybody. We just saw Yusei Kikuchi get a haul like never before. The Houston Astros just gave up assets that might become one of the more lopsided trades in recent MLB history, should they blossom the way that they're expected to. And yeah, they got some massive pieces for a rental in Kikuchi. I can only imagine what the pitching market is right now. That's why David Stearns is being stubborn a little bit. That's why the Mets aren't going to just give up key prospects for mid, especially because Yusei Kikuchi is mid as a starter. We all know this. But to add is an important thing. We know the Mets are destined to do that. Who are they going to land? That is what we're going to find out. How did Winker do? Winker did good. He did very good. He got a walk and he had himself a single. Sadly, on the day the Mets score 15 runs, it's very fitting that Jesse Winker had nothing to do with it for the most part. But Winker was 1 for 2 with a run scored and then was pulled for the second half of the game for Tyrone Taylor to handle right field, which he had a home run robbery of a catch that we saw. I'm blanking on who drove it for the Twins, but it was a fantastic catch. And now I really want to break this one down. All right, guys. Frank with the, you guys, I want to break down the ball game, but you're not letting me because how generous you are. I love you guys so much. Seriously, thank you. Making my entire night here, and I've been grinding my butt off. In case you haven't noticed, I have made a total of, holy guacamole, I think 14, 15 pieces of content in the past 48 and a half hours or so. It's been a lot in a very short period of time. I've done multiple Bleacher Report segments. I've done 3 over the past couple days. I did 2 today, SNY New York Post segment a day or so ago, and just a boatload of content here on the channel. So we're grinding. We're never stopping. We're covering everything to an absolute T, as we always do. And that's why we're the largest platform on YouTube, not directly affiliated with the Mets or SNY, because of each and every one of you amazing Mets fans. Yoshima with another gifted. Thank you so much. He gifts Use Your Illusion. Again, if you're watching this on replay, I just feel bad because you're missing out on the fun. If you guys like live streams, if you like interacting with the community, join in because we have over 1,000 concurrent viewers right now between YouTube and Twitter, and it's all thanks to you amazing Mets fans. I just love chopping up with you guys. Frank, thank you so much again for that gifted. That goes to Ronnie. Really appreciate that. But all right, enough. We're 11 minutes in this one. I would like to talk about this ball game, please. We will definitely get a beer sometime, Frank. Sign me the hell up. Let's make it happen. Shout out to the amazing sponsors, as always, at Sower MLB, the best MLB fantasy game out there, and BetUS, America's #1 sportsbook. Click the links in the description down below today. That way you too get your chance on all the action with those respective BetUS and Sower MLB. But today's lineup, everybody, was as follows. Let's talk about the lineup, then let's talk about what this lineup did here. Lindor in leadoff, Nimmo batting second, JDM third, fourth Alonso, fifth was Jesse Winker making his first Mets start, batting fifth, right field, in between 2 big power righty bats, that being an Alonso and Mark Vientos. I like that a lot. Francisco Alvarez, who's been dealing with a nagging shoulder, was available off the bench. In case you guys are wondering why Alvarez has been slumping a lot lately at the plate, that is directly in hand as to why. Let's not forget Alvarez also gets beat the hell up, sadly, every time he catches because of backswings and foul balls hitting him hard and unfortunately soft areas that aren't padded. It happens every day with Alvarez, it feels like. So a little banged up, but Alvy will be okay. But Terrence, who got the starter over him, was one of the most productive hitters for the Mets today. So we're not complaining there because we have the best backup catcher in Major League Baseball. Find another backup catcher in Major League Baseball with Luis Terrenz's sample size, a 308 average and a 900 OPS. Newsflash, you're not going to find one. Same way that you're not going to find a community quite like this. You will never find one, what we have here at WardyNYM, where Daniel Caps just gifted another 5 subscribers, memberships on the channel. Thank you so much for that, Daniel. Again, love you to death, my man. Greatly appreciate that. Shout out to everybody that get the new gifteds, that being a GWB, Angelo, Jonah, let's see, Richard as well, Kristen Scott Lover. Congratulations to you all now being channel members. You guys are amazing, and Daniel Caps, I cannot thank you again enough. But let's get into this because the lineup again after Winker was Vientos, McNeil, Terrence, Bader, and the boys went swinging. The Mets out-hit the Minnesota Twins today 17-9. The Twins had 9 hits with just 2 runs of show for it. The Mets had 17 hits with 15 runs of show for it. That is what we call quality hitting, and that is what we call beating around the ballpark. That is actually, you know, the old clip, I want to say it's Bugs Bunny winding up to throw a pitch, and every single time he does, it's batting practice. It's either him or it's the duck, and I don't know why I'm blanking on the duck right now. It's not Daffy. You guys know what I'm trying to say, right? He throws the pitch, and it's just home run, home run, home run, home run, home run. If you know, you know. So just want to reference that. But all right, guys, let's break down this ball game because we had Mr. now Jose Budo to start on the bump. It was Jose Quintana that I got a lot to say about in the show. Matching up here against the sorry SOB of a starter for the Twins tonight was none other than former Mets draft pick Simone Woods Richardson, who was initially a top prospect by the Mets, who honestly would probably be performing pretty well in our rotation right now. I wouldn't be opposed to having Simone Woods Richardson. He was part of that Anthony K package trade that was landed in Toronto for Marcus Stroman all those years ago. Woods Richardson was then traded from Toronto to the Twins. I want to say it was the Jose Barrios trade, but don't quote me on that. And since then, Simone Woods Richardson has been having a great year up until he faced the Mets, in which he gave up a home run on his fastball for the first time this season. And for the first time this year, he gave up 6 earned runs in 3.1 innings. We absolutely cooked the bullpen installment. And let's get into everything that happened inning by inning in this one. Because again, the offense, hilariously enough, in a game where the Mets win 15-1, 15-2 rather, what if I told you that the Twins had the lead at some point in this ball game? Yes, you heard that correctly. And yes, throughout the first couple innings, I did have a level of concern that this might be another snooze fest of Mets land. But oh boy, was I proven wrong, to say the least. Manuel Margot rips a doubles 11th of the year. Brian Buxton with a single drives on him. Shout out to Byron Buxton, one of my favorite players in the league, not on the Mets here. Dealt with a lot of ailments, but when healthy, he's an absolute dog, an electric player. Cannot say enough great things about Byron. Awesome stuff. Mets don't do anything after getting a walk and a single that we see there in the first from Nimmo and then JDM. We then advance to the top of the second, and in the second with 2 outs, Max Kepler gets on with his 18th double of the year. Nothing else happens. Then we see in the bottom of the second for the Metsies, they get a 2-out hit from their backup catcher, Luis Torrens. Nothing else to show, though. They are, again, down 1-0 heading into the third. In the third, Byron Buxton gets on base for a second time today with a walk. That's all she wrote, however. Then we get to the bottom of the third. Mets do nothing. They go down in order 1-2-3. Simone Woods Richardson, a great first 3 innings. Jose Quintana, again, brilliant outside the home run he gave up for the most part. He works a quick 1-2-3 that we see in the fourth, including a nice line out there from Ryan Jeffers to end the inning. We then get to the bottom of the fourth, and Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso has been truly one of the most unclutch players for the Mets this season, to the point that when you look at Pete Alonso's numbers when he's behind in games and the low leverage situations, in high leverage situations, he's horrendous. Mind you, I understand just a 1-0 deficit, but for Pete Alonso to kick off this inning, which would be a huge one with his 22nd home run of the year, would be massive, because what would happen thereafter would be the domino, the trickle effect, which would end Simone Wood Richardson's day before it felt like it even began. Uncle Festo with the $2 house, not Uncle Festo with the $2 holla. Dave, thank you for the donation. Uncle Festa pitches tomorrow. That's a win for us. One could only hope. Again, I appreciate the donation a lot, my friend. Thank you so much for that. As always, great member and great friend, as always, my man Dave Kaplowitz. But the Mets, again, tie the ball game 1-1 here, thanks to the Polar Bear 22nd home run of the year. Mind you, Alonso now, at this point, prior to his double, I'll just say it now because I'm an idiot, the Mets, over the past 24 hours, have gotten 2 doubles and 2 home runs, 2 apiece in each, from Pete Alonso in these past couple of games. Great stuff. You're seeing Alonso not only locked in, but finally starting to turn things on. It looks like Alonso may have finally started to get in a groove, something that we have been dying and needing from Alonso all season long. So Pete ties the game 1-1. Jesse Winker gets on base for the first time as a Met with a walk. Great stuff. Winker, who's actually, I believe, 6th in all the National League in walks this season. Mind you, Brandon Nimmo's 4th. So on-base gods over here doing their job, to say the least. Big Pat with the captain membership. Thank you so much for the membership, Pat. Greatly appreciate that, my friend. Happy to have you in here as always. Steven, as always, happy to have you as well. He says, will the Mets get Snell and Conforto from the Giants? Conforto, no. Snell, definitely a possibility. They're active in that market for sure. Ryan Clifford with the $5 haul says, I know this may upset people, but with the prices these pitchers are going for, I really think they should trade Jose Manaea Sevi. Don't sacrifice 5 years for one. While I see your point, Ryan, here's the thing. The Mets have performed way too well with this offense and overall with the club this year to go on a selling spree like that. They're not going to do that. They're going to buy in for their players because they deserve it, and then they're going to see what happens in the year of 2024 in the second half, heading hopefully into postseason play. I understand the thought process there. Again, it's an expensive market, so I see the appeal, but this Mets team is just rolling too much right now to justify making such a drastic change, and if you do that, you hurt the clubhouse, not only for this season, but in the potential years to come. If you want to evaluate the offseason, someone gives a call and says, hey, I'm thinking about coming to the Mets. What's your thoughts on it? A current active player says, I don't know. David Stearns doesn't really care who's performing well, who's doing what. He just focuses on the future right now, and that's why we parted ways with some key pieces, and I firmly believe if we kept those pieces, we would have had at least a solid run. So, puts the phone down. That is why that isn't going to happen. Just to throw that out there, if it wasn't obvious enough already. But what is obvious is the Mets' dominant victory, if you haven't noticed by the score already, 15-2. And after that Jesse Winker walk that we see, Mark Vientos rips a double. Marky V has 2 runners in scoring position now with no out. Vientos, his 14th double of the season. Jeff McNeil drives him in. Jeff with a great day at the plate. Awesome stuff. Jeff's continuing to roll in this very deep lineup. McNeil rips a single to give the Mets a 2-1 lead. And then Luis Torrens pokes one oppo to give the Mets a 3-1 lead. Stearns gave the New York Yankees a Twix bar for Torrens, by the way. Oh, 100%. And at the same time, we also gave up Michael Tonkin too soon. He went more fastball heavy, and he's been a very effective arm for the Yankees this year. So if we want to do a trade 1-for-1, that's essentially what it was. You get Tonkin, we get Torrens, and we're both happy at the end of the day, right? Because at least Torrens, the Yankees would die for Luis Torrens right now. Seriously, Torrens was there in the org the whole time. Yet they were churning out Jose Trevino, who's far from, great. The fact that this guy was an all-star is beyond me, but that's a whole discussion for another day. It's crazy. Luis Torrens, the Mets got for literally nothing, and he has been absolutely fantastic. Compavel, thank you so much for watching the video. I appreciate that. AZ with the $10 house says, you guys are never going to let me break down this game, are you? What a win! Mets kicked some absolute ass today against the Twins. What a response after the abysmal end to the Braves series. Keep the faith and get rewarded. Mets W. Put in the effing books, baby. LFGM. Let's get the hype going, AZ. Every time I get those donos with AZ, just spam in all caps. I'm about to go tomato-faced and run through a brick wall. Let's go, baby. Lock in. Love to see it. Mets dominate this one. They're up 3-1. Harrison Bader gets on with a walk thereafter, and Lindor drives a run in with an RBI single. It's 4-1 Mets here, and they're not done yet. And what I love so much is that even though the Mets didn't have a lot of like crazy hits in this game, when you think about it, a lot more singles, some walks, some hit by pitches, but they were able to get quality outs. Brandon Nimmo with an RBI sac fly. 5-1 Mets. JD Martinez, 6-1 Mets with an RBI sac fly. We will take that. Again, put the ball in play, left it, drive it, go it far, and good things are going to happen. That is what I want to see. And speaking of, sac flies, a guy who never got sac flies for the Mets and the schmuck that was James McCann, I want to give a tip of the cap. James McCann had a Kevin Pillar situation today, was drilled right in the face, broken nose entirely, and he stayed in the ball game and caught all 9 innings. Now, did anyone ask him to do that? No. I guess that was just his pride and ego. I wanted to step up and make a statement. I do the same, considering that's the coolest thing that, James has stepped up and done with, I feel like, in his career since leaving the White Sox. But seriously, all jokes aside, shout out to James McCann. Took it like an absolute G today. That's not an easy thing to do. And that's a bulldog mentality right there. Shout out James. Again, I might have hated you during your time with the Mets because you were worth anything but $40+ million. But it's not your fault that we had a front office at the time that was just throwing away free money for a backup catcher in a limited sample size. So James McCann, wishing you a very speedy recovery, wishing you the best for you and your family right now as the Orioles continue to roll there in the AL East. Crazy stuff there. Bring back McCann, more like bring back no. I want none of that. Nada. No thank you. Never. Never. If James McCann is ever in a Mets uniform again, I will go right to Citi Field and exit him myself. Francisco Lindor steals his 22nd bag of the year. Nothing else happens, but the Mets, again, have themselves a dominant fourth inning that we see 6 runs in the fourth. They would then get 5 in the 6th. 4 in the 7th. We're going to get into all those here in just a second. Jesse Winker gets his first hit of the day in the bottom of the 5th that we see there. Winker with a single. Nothing else transpires in the 5th. We then get to the 6th, a Byron Buxton single. That's all she wrote. And that does it for Jose Quintana's final full inning of work today, at least. Then we see Harrison Bader get on with a single after Josh Stallman comes in to replace Cole Sands here in the 6th. Poor Josh, little did he know what was going to happen. A Francisco Lindor walk later has 2 on, no out here for Brandon Nimmo, who drives in a run. 2nd RBI of the day, this time with an RBI single. Great stuff for Brandon. Great eye at the plate today. However, Brandon, who's been slumping so mightily as he has post-All-Star break, like some other guys in this lineup, including Francisco Alvarez, it's great to see Nimmo kind of break out of his shell a little bit tonight, right? What we all saw, which is huge. Thank you all so much to everybody chiming in, to my 500+ live viewers here on YouTube. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button, hit that not hit that anything else. Just let me know in the comments your initial reactions to the news that the Metsies win a massive one here by a final score of 15-2. I also realize I don't even have the thumbnail set up, so I apologize for that, everybody. But we're going to continue to roll here because as we see, JDM makes it 8-1 then with an RBI ground out. Pete Alonso gets on with a walk. Tyrone Taylor then gets on with a single. Mind you, Tyrone stole a freaking home run ball and right later in this ball game. Was such a good catch. Amazing stuff there by Tyrone. And then Mark Vientos drives in another run. 9-1 Metsies, this time via a walk. They're trying to roll here. Again, Mets have bases loaded. Then we see Jeff McNeil, less than 2 outs, rip an RBI sac fly to give the Mets a 10-1 lead. Mind you, we're in the 6th inning here. Luis Torrens walks, so we have bases loaded again. Harrison Bader hit by pitch on the foot. Takes it like a champ, not feeling great about it, but he stays in the ball game. Oh my God, the McCann segment was, I'm glad you like it, Michael. I'm glad you did. Thank you for the $5 haul too. I appreciate that a lot, my man. Shout out Michael in the chat with the $5 haul. What a beauty he is. Mets take an 11-1 lead here through just 6 innings. So Not a problem. Ryan Jeffers is the one who was robbed by Tyrone Taylor. Literally the next out later that we would see, as Jose Butto then comes in to replace Jose Quintana, who gave the Mets a brilliant outing of work today. Again, everybody, Jose Quintana's final line is as follows: 6 innings of 5 hit, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 5 strikeout ball, a sub-4 ERA now on the season for Jose Quintana. And mind you, just to give you guys some context how much better Jose Quintana has been, this is a huge standout to him. This is a guy that back in May, he's had a 1.91 ERA and 47 innings in his last 8 starts. Mind you, this is not just with Francisco Alvarez, so Quintana is proving that with that being in Torrens or whoever's catching, he's going to actually have some success with. His ERA dropped from roughly 5.3 now to 3.89. Huge stuff by Jose Quintana. So I want to know from each and every one of you amazing Mets fans watching live on a replay, drop them in the comments. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you grade Jose Quintana's start today and why? Thank you so much for letting me know. Raymond, thank you for the kind words too. I'm very happy that you found the channel. Always happy to have more amazing Mets fans join the community that we got going at the moment. Wardy says blah, so he's not too happy at the moment, maybe about Jose Quintana's production or whatever it might be, but I appreciate him chiming in no less. Yoshima with the $5 house says John Brebbia just gave up 6 runs in the 8th, capped with a Bobby Wick grand slam. Feels like he's out as another potential trade candidate for the Mets. I would argue that he's actually more in than ever because of that outing, because that means that just lessened his trade value. John Brebbia has a really nice arsenal. He has electric stuff, but you're going to have some bad outings. And today was an absolutely bad outing for John Brebbia, who, the K to walk ratio has been great this year too. I've loved it. I wouldn't be opposed to Brebbia, but not a pretty outing, and certainly not something we want to have to deal with in Queens. So I understand that argument. Thank you again for that donation. What do I think of Tyler Anderson? Again, a controllable starter for sure, but a depth piece so I could see that making sense. It doesn't move the needle too much for me, though. You're just adding another arm that kind of goes in hand with the current arms the Mets have. That's why if you acquire a Blake Snell, that's a difference maker, because that's an ace caliber pitcher. Tyler Anderson, even at his best, not ace caliber. We saw him have success with the Dodgers where they get the best out of pitching. Can't say that he would have that same transition if he went now from the Angels to the Mets here. Former Pittsburgh Pirate who has had success against the Mets in the past. Max Kepler got on a walk. Nothing else transpired. A single for Manuel Margot in the 7th. Who cares? Let's then continue to fast forward this one, because in the 7th inning, the Mets would continue their offense. They made a bunch of substitutions at this point, and for good reason, because they're rolling already up 11-1, so you might as well do it. Ben Gamble comes in the ballgame. He gets a single. Pete Alonso then drives him in with his 26th double of the year. Alonso, 4 extra base hits in the past 24 hours. We will gladly take that. Mets take a 12-1 lead here that we see. And then after the 12-1 lead, Tyrone Taylor gets on with a single. And Jeff McNeil drives him in with his 9th double of the season. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. McNeil only has 7 less doubles than Pete Alonso this season. I know Pete is obviously the big home run getter, but Pete going gap to gap is very important. Hopefully we continue to see more of just that. But McNeil continues being McDoubles, baby, and I am absolutely full with all the MSG and all the processed food that is in my stomach because of Jeff, but that's okay, because I still love McDoubles. I love Max Sauce, and it's tasty the same way that 13-1 lead is very tasty for myself and my appetite as a Mets fan. Luis Torrens makes it a 15-1, facing a position player now, and Matt Wallner, who's just lobbing them. And we see Torrens rip one for a double because he's going to stat pad. Why the hell not? I sure as shit would if I was in his shoes. Mets take a 15-1 lead in this one. We would see a home run hit by the Twins in the 9th inning against Jose Butto. Ryan Jeffers was not robbed this time. Finally got all that one. And okay, whatever. That's fine. Jose Butto still works a clean outing for the most part outside that one run. And Jose Butto's final line, as you guys can see right here, again, is 3 innings of 4 hit, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 2 strikeout ball, a 2.47 ERA on the season there for Jose Butto. Want to know what your thoughts on Jose Butto and why the Mets stretched him today? Because that was clearly, as we all know, the reasoning was to make sure that he can be stretched out if they look at him as a starter still, if they have to. And given how expensive these prices are, knowing that while I expect the Mets to acquire a starter and a reliever, we're not going to know until we actually know, right? So in that time, it's important that the Mets make sure that they at least have some in-house options to consider, and Jose Butto's at the top of the list. Now, do I like Jose Butto better as a multi-inning reliever than a true starter? I actually do currently, just because I don't know how much length Butto can give you. Let's not forget Butto, when he was starting for the Mets this year, was more of a five and die pitcher, just like the case for every other Met pitcher felt like, walking everyone their mother in a lot of his starts, and while he was working out of jams, he was walking a lot of guys in order to do so. And maybe makes sense when you walk guys purposely in Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, those types, going back to his win against the Dodgers earlier this year. But when it doesn't make sense is when you're playing, lesser clubs and you're still having major problems with your command. So Jose Budos look great in a smaller sample size. I would personally like that to continue, but if the Mets have to defer to him to be as a starter, then they will do exactly that. Jose Budo, though, speaking on exactly this, said the following here: I'm just going to be ready, healthy, when I get the ball to try to do my job. Jose Budo said he doesn't know if he will eventually be moved into the rotation, and he just wants to be here to help the team any way possible. Team player, we love it, Budo. Thank you so much for that. That's awesome stuff. And again, guys, continue to let me know your initial reactions to everything going on right now. I'm going to add this to my ringtone. What happened? Oh, I played the jingle. I just realized what I did. Did I play the jingle again? Dude, he's so tired. He's been working over and over. That's why I'm an ass. If you don't close the jingle after you leave a tab and go back in, it runs again. How many times has the jingle ran on you guys tonight? Are you kidding me? It's probably ran like 10 times unintentionally. I legit had no idea. Holy shit, that's actually hilarious. That makes the show even better. Is anyone even mad about that? If you're mad about the jingles, I apologize, but you know what? Get over it. You'll be fine. You'll get some sleep tonight. The way that I probably won't, as a new dad, sweating my freaking ass off right now doing this post game in my chair all day, getting ready for a big deadline day tomorrow. Play it again. Oh no. Oh, okay. It played twice, a few times. Not the end of the world, right? We'll get through it. We'll survive. Play it again. Yeah. Oh, you guys crack me up. Oh, this has been a lot of fun tonight. But let's talk about fun. Let's talk about what's been so great about the Mets. And I'm not going to talk about the pitching first with Quintana, because we were just doing that. And I have a full breakdown to get into. Let's talk on the offensive end, right? Let's break it down a little bit more. The jingle will not run again, but if it does, that's some voodoo shit that has nothing to do with me, all right? Hands free. I don't know what's happening there. I don't know what else to say. But what I do know what to say is that we got to break down this offense, because holy guacamole. Again, mind you, the lineup that you currently see to this side right here is the lineup that finished the ball game, not the lineup that started the ball game. So, just for some context on how good this Mets offense was today, again, a total of 17 hits. The Mets had an expected batting average of 351, and this was the following, guys. Again, you guys crack me up, you do. Lindor with a 2 for 5 day, including, we saw there an RBI, a 256 average, and an 808 OPS this season. Brandon Nimmo, we saw with 2 RBIs and a hit. Great day by Brandon. Huge day. No strikeouts. That's what I want to see, Brandon. Enough of the strikeouts. You guys are relentless. You want the chance. After I break down the offense, I'll do the jingle again if you really want. If you're that desperate, we'll go bananas about it. Sure. Okay. We see Brandon Nimmo, 233 average, sub 800 OPS this season. JDM, 1 for 3 with a run scored and 2 RBIs, 262 average, sub 800 OPS. Ben Gamel, 1 for 2 with a run scored, 231 average, 720 OPS. Pete Alonso, 2 for 3 with the home run, with the double, with the 3 runs scored, with the 2 RBIs, 246 average, finally 800 OPS for our power hitting first baseman. Jesse Winker, 1 for 2 with a run scored, commanding right field for the first 5 innings of the day. We see with a walk as well, a 258 average and a just under 800 OPS. And when I say just under, I'm literally saying a total of 793. Yes, we're going to get the jingle going. Give us a second. Tyrone Taylor, 2 for 2 with 2 runs scored and a home run robbery. You know what would be sick? I know it won't happen, but I think a really, really cool thing would be to help incentivize defenders to make sure that they go out of their way to try to rob home runs, is to incentivize them by saying, hey, if you rob a home run, you get that home run. That would be the sickest thing. I know it won't happen. It's like a video game type concept, but just hear me out for a second. If you actually rob a home run, where the probability of it being a home run is 100%, and you robbed it entirely the way that Tyrone Taylor did, then he should have the home run on his resume. You'll see that he caught it, but then that accounts for him in his stats. I think that would be such a crazy thing. Again, would never happen in Major League Baseball. It's a video game thought, but just something to think about maybe when you're playing with your friends, if you're playing baseball or, whatever you're doing. Just, Just a fun thought I have right there. Hit it, Wardy. Post game. Yeah, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that. Thank you, my man. We'll do it in a second. Don't you worry. Mark Vientos, though, with an RBI and a double today. 284 average, 883 OPS for my and your third baseman. Jeff McNeil with a pair of hits today. Another McDouble and 3 RBIs on the day. 233 average, 656 OPS for Jeff. Luis Torrens, 3 for 4 with the stat padding double against a position player that we saw in the 8th inning or so. 3 runs scored, 1 run scored, 3 RBIs, 308 average, and an 899 OPS. Harrison Bader, 1 for 3 with 2 runs scored, an RBI, 269 average, and a 717 OPS. Let's see. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you again, watching out for the donation. We greatly appreciate that. All right, guys, you want to hear it? Let's do it together. You know what I'm actually going to do real quick? I'm going to make sure that I have this properly set up for 1 second. Then we're going to do it.
Postgame. Postgame. Calling all Met fans, come and join us now. Talking about this game and gonna break it down. It's Mets Postgame.
Shout out to Greg. Shout out to Jordan, as always, with the jingle. You guys want to know the funniest part about the jingle? And this is what's going to really kill you. This is what's really going to kill all of you so much. Get ready for this. Every single time the jingle runs, every single time, I can't hear it. So I'm kind of just spitballing. I know in my head exactly how the song goes. Post game. Calling all Mets fans, come and join us now. Talking about the game. We're going to break it down. And then we got the guitar, to end it. I know it all in my head to a T, but it's just hilarious. Every time we do it, I'm just thinking in my head, okay, it should be happening here, then this part should be happening here. That's how it is. James, thank you so much for the $5 holla. James says, did everyone that got to the plate tonight get their carrots? Wait. What? To get their carrots wet? That is a line I don't think I've ever heard before. I have a feeling I get what you're saying with this, but what? That's all I gotta say. Guarantee Priest is watching this in the corner doing some self-fulfilling things. He 100% is. He 100% is. What do you gotta play 15 times for the amount of runs scored? And I know we're gonna lose freaking viewers faster than actually. I'm not gonna say that. James, thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. That was gonna be way out of pocket if I said that. I am missing out, Drew. I know. I gotta figure out a way to make sure that I can actually hear it, because when I have my headphones in and it plays, I still don't hear it. So I gotta figure that out. But that's a me problem, not a you problem. You got my David says I got my carrots wet once. What even is this? What even is this show, guys? You're literally killing me. We're almost at 200 likes as well. Thank you all so much for that. Continue to smash the like and subscribe on as we're reacting to the latest in Mets land as they take care of business here once again against the Minnesota Twins. And when I say once again, I shouldn't say that being the case with the Twins, but taking care of business is really where I want to have that emphasis. Sean, thank you so much for the franchise membership. Greatly appreciate that. Really does mean a lot, my man. Eric says, hell no, Wardy. We will take it 15 times. Oh, what a fun night this is. All right, guys, let's get into the pitching. I got a lot to say on the pitching, and I got my man Isaac Rothman with some info to relay my way to break it down a little bit more. So let's get into exactly that, everybody. Let's see. Post-game jingle is the real MVP. Enzo, you're the real MVP. I appreciate that. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about the pitching, everybody, because that definitely impressed me, to say the least, today. Very, very happy to get in this. John Morosi continues to be anything but an actual reporter. Christian Walker's departure from tonight's game is not related to a trade. Oh, thank you. Who could have saw that coming for a D-backs team that will be adding and not selling? It's almost like that's just common sense, but I digress. Let's get into now on the pitching end. What stood out here for Jose Quintana, maybe a little bit on Budo. We'll break it all down for you folks. Okay, everybody, buckle up. We got a lot to say on Jose Quintana here. It is as follows. Again, Quintana's final line, 6 innings of 5 hit, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 5 strikeout ball, a 3.89 ERA this season for the soft-tossing veteran southpaw. The arsenal, what we saw tonight, 49% was that curveball, sitting right around 77 miles per hour. Sinker, 18%, sat 91, topped out 92. Four seams, 16%, sat right around 90, topped out 90, 91 and a half, 92. Changeup, 13% of the Arsenal, 86 miles per hour. Slurve, 3% of the Arsenal, 76 miles per hour. Quintana's velocity was down today across all accounts, but it worked in his favor brilliantly with his soft tossing pinpoint accuracy that he found himself having. At 49%, this was the most curveballs Quintana has thrown by percentage since a start in 2015 when he threw them 51% of the time, courtesy of SNY. Shout out SNY with that stat. The curveball generated an incredible 8 whiffs tonight with a 35% whiff rate, which is why he was pounding the zone with it and threw it roughly, again, we saw roughly 50% of the time. Quintana's curveball was so effective because it tunnels perfectly with his low VAA fastball, which is very important to make note of. The refresher VAA is the angle at which a pitch approaches a plate. A VAA of 0 degrees means a pitch is perfectly flat, which would go over the catcher's head. Just some context there. A VAA of negative 90 degrees means it's perpendicular to the plate. A negative VAA means the ball slopes downward, while a positive VAA, it slopes upward. Elite VAA is between negative 3.71 degrees and negative 4.04. And Quintana's fastball sat today right around negative 4.01. So that tells you it's looking good and it's looking sharp. Pitchers like Quintana, Paul Sewall, Joe Ryan, Alexis Diaz, just to name a few, excel with low velocity fastballs by having low VAA, making the ball appear to rise and causing hitters to swing under it. Another guy that I feel like falls right in this category is Shota Imanaga, but I could be wrong on that front. I know I'm not wrong on that front. That's exactly how Shota works because he has that deceptiveness with his pitches while he's soft tossing as a fellow lefty. The hitters are looking for that low VAA rising fastball, so when they see that curveball coming from the same arm slot, they're more likely to swing and miss. So essentially what that means is when you have a pitcher that is making sure that they're not tipping their pitches and the release point from their fastball, their curveball is pretty much the exact same. Think Jacob deGrom, think Kodai Senga, just a lot of Mets starters that have done this brilliantly and done it at an elite level. Jose Quintana did it at elite level today. So again, imagine seeing a pitch perfectly thinking it's going to be a four-seam fastball and then bam, you're getting a curve. That was a difference maker for sure in this matchup, which was awesome to see. You know, Quintana excelled the last couple years with mostly his sinker. This year, he is returning to his approach he took when he first came up to the big leagues. High four seams and a nasty curveball that he throws 3 to 5 miles per hour slower than he did when he first came up. But because of that low VAA, that approach is still quite effective. Overall grade for Jose Quintana, my man Isaac gave him an 8 out of 10. Me personally, 6.1 innings of strong 1 earned run ball. I am going to give Jose Quintana a 7.5. The only reason why I'm not going 8 is because I want length. And Jose Quintana, while he was awesome today, again, I always want length with my starters. So if you're not going to give me 7 innings, I'm not overly happy about it, even with how much the game is changing. Fully aware of that. Still, with that being said, that is all you need to know there on the Jose Quintana front. And Jose Butto had himself another sharp outing as well, outside that, fraudulent home run he gave up to Jeffers. It was a home run, I know, but who cares? It doesn't matter. Oh, Gerald, you know what you can do, my man? Just get over it. Oh, well, I want to take a moment because I want to make an example out of Gerald real quick because this is how much I don't care. For anyone that has personal offense with my earrings, with my nose reading, I got a statement for you. I don't give a flying fuck. You really think I care about how you feel about my approach, how I live my day by day? My goodness, the fact that people go out of their way to make some of the comments that they do, mind you, when I am a new father as well, when I have a perfectly fine, happy life, happy family going on, just absolutely cracks me up. You think I care about your insecurities? Buddy, all you gotta do is look in the mirror and ask yourself, I could be doing better. And I know you can. So why don't you do yourself a favor and do exactly that and then come back to me and then we can have a further discussion, shall we? Let's see. Eric Roper in this chat says, Wardy, as Jose said, when's the deadline stream tomorrow? Deadline stream, barring any changes, will be starting multiple hours before the actual time of the deadline. Right now, I'm eyeing right around, I want to say 3 p.m. Eastern, but that is ever changing. I might start it a little bit earlier, I might start it later, and it does go in hand to a degree if the Mets make moves. So naturally, if the Mets make a trade early in the day tomorrow, I am going to live stream and talk about it right then. So basically what I'm trying to say is if the Mets make all the key decisions that they're going to make already prior to the deadline, then it won't be as long of a deadline stream or as big of a magnitude of one, because we already know essentially everything that they got and they're not going to do much more. But what the starter and a reliever need at minimum still out there for the Mets, that is why we're going to have ourselves a big show tomorrow. So I look forward to it. And again, happy that you guys are taking the time to chime in right now to our 1,500 plus live viewers. All you amazing Mets fans, greatly appreciate that. Chairun, thank you so much for the kind words too. I appreciate that as well. I'm Giovanni. No, I'm not the legend himself. Far from it. I'm not even gonna. I don't even know what else to say on that. I don't. More jingle, more facial hardware. Could you guys imagine every show I just start putting on a fake piercing? You ruffle the feathers of either the old heads out there that can't comprehend that, yes, men in 2024, believe it or not, do actually wear piercings. They've been doing it for a while now, but unless you just stepped outside and you're wondering why you're burning so much, that's because the sun is hitting your skin for the first time over the past 20 years. So you might want to go back in, realize you're not a vampire, make sure you have everything feeling good, and then you can go about your day. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point, but Let's get into this. We talked about the pitching there. Now, everybody, I want to take the time. We're 45 minutes in the show, right? Essentially, we got at least 15 minutes from the hour mark. I don't want tonight to be a prospect discussion, okay? We do our prospect updates every show. That's how we typically do. And on top of that, we can't even if we want to, because today's Monday and the minor leagues don't play on Monday. So what we are going to do is now defer to each and every one of you to take the time to answer your questions, whatever you got for me regarding the MLB trade deadline, as we are going to now do a complete preview. Now, regarding this preview, let's get into all the latest here on what the Mets have been connected with. I think it is a very, very important thing. We need a Happy Jeff times a fun Worry collab. McNeil, that would be crazy. That would. Funny enough, I do have connections to Jeff. So granted, I've spoken about Jeff in a lot of ways this year, which wouldn't shock me if he doesn't want to ever do anything with me, and I understand that. I had the privilege of interacting with Jeff at his charity event that they invited me to last year. That was a great time in New York. Had an absolute blast. But talking now about the latest news and rumors, these are the following players that the Mets have reportedly been connected to. So let's get into it all. Let's break it down, okay? As follows, the Mets have been reportedly connected to the following relievers: Tanner Scott, Tanner Banks, Luis Garcia. Luis Garcia, we did a short live stream on a couple days ago. Tanner Banks, we discussed in a top 5 Mets trade target video 2 weeks ago. That's at 10K views or so. Check that out. Tanner Scott, we just discussed earlier today. And mind you, after I discussed Tanner Scott, the second factual report came out of the Mets connection. First, it was Andy Martino 48 hours ago saying that the Mets and the Yankees have shown interest in Tanner Scott. They have dabbled in that market. Then we found out earlier today from Robert Murray, after I did that video, that he too has been hearing that the Mets are showing interest in Tanner Scott. So why is that an important thing to note? Robert Murray is very reliable. He's been pretty much on the button with his breakdowns on news and rumors as a insider, especially for fan-sided. And while normally a lot of the guys you look at is Jeff Pass and Ken Rosenthal, among others, but Robert is kind of a slept-on guy, and he has definitely been reporting accurately for a couple of years now, and to see that's definitely encouraging. Now, whether the Mets land Tanner Scott or not's a different story, because he's going to cost quite a bit for a rental reliever, but there's no denying that between himself and Tanner Banks, Tanner Scott is the dominant southpaw option, whereas Tanner Banks is the cheaper, more affordable, definitely a crafty southpaw option for sure, but does he move the needle for you the way that a Tanner Scott would? No, I would argue that he doesn't. Then we see here Luis Garcia, again, a guy with a sub-4 ERA this year for the Angels, 37-year-old right-hander, throwing absolute gas, again, touching 102 on the gun, but he does get barreled hard because of that at times. So for Garcia, he has a very hot market, and with how expensive this pitching market is, I wouldn't be shocked if the Mets don't land him. I think if the Mets land a reliever that isn't Tanner Scott, it will be, again, more of that Tanner Banks level, a guy that a lot of people maybe aren't talking about too much, but it does make sense and it is feasible for the team. On the starting pitching front, this is where a lot has changed a little bit, right, just over the past 24 hours, and that has to do with my guy, Eric Fetty. Now, as you guys know, we are mourning the loss, which is my aspirations of Eric Fetty in a New York Metropolitan uniform. That has come to an end. I know we had some people that were very much in favor of Eric Fetty, and I know that we have some people that were not in favor of Eric Fetty. So for the people that weren't in favor of him, congratulations. You don't have to deal with all the Eric Fetty talk anymore. And USA Kikuchi, who was traded for an absolute haul with the Houston Astros, another starting option off the table. Frankie Montas was traded in the division from the Reds to the Brewers. off the table, another starter. Jamison Tyone, who the Mets have shown interest in, have been in contact with the Cubs, that we discussed in our video earlier, breaking down the Jake Diekman DFA, which was long overdue. Everybody, can we have ourselves spam the chat right now? Can we spam the tombstone emojis in the chat right now, please, for Jake Diekman being DFA'd? You know, it's finally... He's dead. You know, like literally, that's how we felt. My friend, this is an exaggeration. I won't say who they are. Mets fan I know sent me a message of like, you know, Jake Diekman DFA'd, and it was just the photo of you know, just of the newspaper that says, you know, Hitler's dead. Just ridiculous. Not saying that. Just actually ridiculous. But yeah, spam it. Let's get the tombstones in the chat. We gotta. Again, we appreciate him giving up everything for that Aaron Judge to freeze him for the strikeout. But outside that, Jake Diekman was just such a pain in my ass, and probably a pain in yours all season long. Seriously. And now that Jake Diekman was DFA'd, he is the 6th out of 8 reliever that we have seen between all of them. He is the 6th out of 8th, I should say, that has been DFA'd or parred with by the Mets this season. And that is exactly what David Stearns was preaching heading into the year. It was going to be one of those situations where we all know the bullpen is ever changing. We know it's going to change, and we know a lot of things are going to happen from the start of the season till the end of the season. But David Stearns, while yes, he has parted with plenty of guys that he acquired in the offseason, he has done that because he's a proactive GM. He isn't sitting on his hands and waiting too little too late in every scenario. Do I think he waited a little too late with Jake Diekman? Do I think that we would have had some more wins if Jake Diekman wasn't here? Yes, I do. But that goes without saying. He has done a great job on actually cutting dead weight more often than not when the Mets should and when the Mets need to, versus not doing it at all. And for that, I appreciate Matt Gage was called up as a corresponding move today. As we know, Gage, southpaw option, acquired from the Dodgers organization, brilliant minor league numbers, has had MLB success. I like his arsenal quite a bit, and he profiles well. We'll see how he does now that he's been called up, at least for the time being. John, thank you so much for the $2 haul. John says, will Winker be their biggest move on the offensive end? Yes. I think if you're talking about name, there's a solid chance Jesse Winker is the biggest name the Mets acquire. But I would argue that they're still very much so not done in this market, and a lot is going to happen in just what the Mets are trying to do from now up until 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. And if you guys want to know more of a bold take on the trade deadline, the Mets do say, you know what? We're gonna mix things up. We had another big game. We know how good this Mets team can be. Let's get crazy. And I talked about a let's get crazy, bold trade opportunity for the Mets to seek should they wish it, and that was to acquire both Jack Flaherty and, yes, Andrew Chafin. I broke that down in the Bleacher Report app earlier today. You can check it out if you go in the Mets segment in BR app. You'll see me right there. You see the schmuck's face, and you can see me talking about why that could happen and why it probably won't happen, just because of the assets it'll take to acquire, but why it's a possibility, and why we'll break that down as a bold prediction, meaning one that isn't necessarily likely to happen, but one that is valid enough to warrant the discussion, because you understand how much of an impact not only Chafin would have finally being this Mets bullpen like 4 years too late, right? But also Jack Flaherty having a great bounce back season in his one and only year with the Detroit Tigers. Speaking of Flaherty, he was scratched today by Detroit because he will be traded by tomorrow, that we know. And Flaherty is going to come at a pretty penny, and I firmly believe that pretty penny price is going to be out of what the Mets are comfortable with, which again, I don't fault them too much depending on what the return is ultimately going to be for him once we find that out. James Alba with the $5. How you doing, James? Long time no see, my man. Been questioning the Scott rumors. Don't think Stearns would give up the capital for a rental when it's against his philosophy to pay, extend relief pitchers. I agree with you, absolutely. I think Tanner Scott is probably way too expensive for the Mets to be able to win that bidding war should it happen. I don't think the Mets want to go to a bidding war for Tanner Scott. I really don't. But the Mets know Tanner Scott very well. They have two concerns with Tanner Scott, which is exactly the same concerns that you should be having with him as well. And they are as follows. One, it's the walk rate. The guy's over 5 walks per 9 this year. So essentially, it's a Jake Diekman-like walk rate, but instead of Jake Diekman, it's an absolutely dominant starter. And that is the difference maker there. Then you add in what you're getting in the contract. At 1 year, $5.7 million, you're giving up a lot of assets for a rental. Then you add in the most important aspect I didn't mention already, not playing in a big market. Yes, Tanner Scott has had great success on the Miami Marlins, a depleted team that's never going anywhere right now. We know that. Scott In a big market like New York, how will he be able to handle high leverage situations, key moments, especially if the Mets crack postseason play and say are in the wild card, right? How will Tanner Scott do those high leverage type ball game situations? Will he be rattled? Will he walk everyone their mother, or will he pound the strike zone with that 100 mile per hour fastball and utilize that 90 mile per hour slider to his best capabilities? Great questions, but again, and Alba, this goes in hand with why we're talking about the pros and the cons. I understand why the Mets are active in that market, but I also understand, to your point, why it doesn't shock me if the Mets don't land him in the end because of everything that we just listed above. Shout out to everybody chiming in right now to my roughly 1,700 concurrent Mets fans watching, whoever you're a fan of. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button. We're oh so close to 26,000 subscribers, guys. I feel like we can get there during the show today, so if you can help make that happen, thank you so much. And again, if you want coverage on the Mets with everything news, rumor, postgame, anything and everything with the team, I don't know what else to say, but hit those buttons, hit that notification bell, as we got you covered here at WardyNYM. But to get back into who the Mets have been connected with, it's not only the guys we just mentioned there, it's also the following in Jameson Taillon that I noted a second ago. And yes, drum roll please, Blake Snell. You have heard that correctly. The Mets have been in the market, and Blake Snell actually is an option for them. Now, if you're asking for my personal opinion on Blake Snell, I see the pros and the cons completely. I understand the pros to Blake Snell being one of the best second half pitchers, and not the best second half pitcher in Major League Baseball for the past number of years. Cy Young caliber pitcher, ace caliber pitcher, dominant with his swing and miss stuff. Again, the baseball savant numbers that we see with Blake Snell right now are chef's kiss, a thing of beauty at the moment. I'm not opposed to Blake Snell. I'm opposed to the walk rate. I'm opposed to him pitching in a big market when he might not do well there, but I'm not opposed at the idea of acquiring him because you eat his contract and because that helps you give up lesser assets in order to do so. Now, one key thing to bear in mind with Blake Snell and trying to evaluate him on the trade value and can it happen is, while he does have that player option for 2025 at $30+ million, if Blake Snell just has the season that he's expected to have for the final, games that we have left this season, and should he be dealt to a contending team that, again, he has good playoff numbers with, again, like he did in Tampa, like he did in San Diego, I'm left to believe that he's probably going to want to hit the market again and not take that 1 year, $30 million deal, right? If you're Blake Snell, you want to bet on yourself again. The whole point of you signing the contract that you did with the Giants was to bet on yourself, and it was off to a terrible start because you didn't pitch at all in spring training. Now you're looking like arguably the best pitcher in all the National League. So Blake Snell, as advertised right now, you're either going to love him or you're going to hate him. And my man Borna, the #1 Padres YouTuber out there, who actually has spoken one-on-one with Blake numerous occasions, knows him very well beyond just a player level, as they've had current connections during Borna's time back when he was working at a player agency. I can tell you that Snell is probably more confident in himself than he has been in a minute right now. He's absolutely rolling, and he would do wonders frontlining this rotation for the Mets. Do I think that there is risk involved? 1,000%. I think there's a decent amount of risk with this. But I will argue that given the Mets' current rotation configuration, and given Steve Cohen's ability to flex his guns with the dollars, knowing how much is coming off the books this season once it's concluded, is what warrants the Mets not only seeking Blake Snell, but going out of their way to try to land him. And that is why I fully expect a lot of Blake Snell rumblings from now up until 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow when we have the trade deadline. And outside of all the players that we just listed there, everybody, that we broke down thoroughly in separate videos, I now want to ask each and every one of you, just spam them in the chat, spam them in the comments down below, which player, out of all players available currently, which player do you hope the Mets land and why? Just spam the names. We want to hear it. Shout out everybody. Shout out Lexi, my girlfriend, chiming in the chat. I saw her comment earlier too. Love to see that as always. Let's see everybody in the chat over here. Scott, how you doing? Ethan, Matthew, Garufi. Is that how you pronounce your last name, Matthew? If so, I apologize if I butchered it. Zach Flakerton, Giovanni Jimenez, the incredible fuck. Love that name too. Daniel Caps, as always. Andres Harrison, Ron Kemp, going up the list. Adorable Snowflake. What a name is that? Let's see. Alicia. We got all you guys in here. Love it, love it, love it. Snell. Robert. Yeah, sign me up, Dylan. Dylan's wired the way I'm wired. Yep, I would take Luis Robert every day of the week. I would take Garrett Crochet every day of the week. I would send the whole farm for Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert. I would freaking send them to Southside Chicago myself. I wouldn't even just order their Ubers. I would get myself a rental and then drive to each and every one of their individual houses or apartments, no matter how close or far away they are from each other. Huddle them all up in one big car and send their ass straight to Chicago. That is what I would do for Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert, for obvious reasons. But if you want my opinion, the guy that I want the most at the trade deadline that is feasible now, let's actually there's a chance it can happen. Out of all the guys right now, out of knowing that Eric Fetty's now off the market, which still pisses me off a lot, and knowing the guys are quickly coming off the market, it's a two-parter. Obviously, I do want Blake Snell. I do. And I want it more and more. The more I talk about it, the more I think about it. Because the Mets don't have an ace-caliber pitcher outside. I shouldn't say that. The Mets do have ace-caliber pitchers with performances from Severino, sometimes with Quintana, very rarely with Manaea, but it can happen every now and then. But Kodai Senga came out right away and showed you what an ace starter is. That's the difference. It's going out there after missing the entire season and getting 9 strikeouts in 5.1 innings and allowing just one measly run or two, and then locking down and shutting down that Braves lineup thereafter. That is what was so electric about Kodai Senga, and that is what made me miss having an ace-caliber pitcher the most. So because of that reason, I want an ace-caliber starter. I know Tarek Skubal is going to cost too much, and the Mets don't have the farm for it. I know Garrett Crochet is going to cost too much, and they don't have the farm for it. Nor is Getz happy at all right now and trying to negotiate a trade with Crochet because of his stubbornness to need an extension to play in playoffs. So let's see, huge L on Stearns for not going in on Fetty. They were in on Fetty, so I won't say that's an L. You could say it's an L because they didn't pull off the trade, but they also weren't able to pull off the trade because the Dodgers got involved in a 3-team, which sent Miguel Vargas there to the White Sox, which sent Michael Kopech back to the Dodgers, which is ridiculous. Dodgers are going to turn him into an elite setup man. You just wait. Flamethrowing right-hander, just has struggled. He's had some bad outings this year. Controllable, young talent. Kopech and Crochet were two guys that I was most excited for on being the future of this pitching staff for the White Sox, and it fell flat on its face so bad with Kopech. Crochet is absolutely blossoming, but as soon as he blossoms, he's going to be out of town, and that's why I can't stand Southside, because they're just a team that's so poorly ran. They remind me a lot. They remind me a lot of the Wilpons in some of their worst years, with just no drive, no understanding, don't know what analytics are, like nothing. They're just hiring guys that have no background whatsoever to be in front office positions. It's just terrible stuff there. It really is. Kevin Gausman's an interesting pick for sure, if the Blue Jays are willing to trade. Gausman is having a down year, though, all accounts. Down on the K per 9, down. The ERA isn't great this year. Would I prefer, is Gausman a guy that I think could do well for the Mets if they acquire him? Yes. I don't like Gausman's contract. Don't like the idea of having to eat it, but if you eat it again, you're going to get him for, a lesser return that you'd have to give up. And that is an important thing that the Mets and Steve Cohen especially can try to flex their guns with when it comes to assets they have to give up. Nope, let's just eat that contract and then have to give up some assets, but not as much as what we would have done, say, if we were not taking on said contract. Chris Bassett, I don't see that relationship rekindling. However, I understand the pros and the cons to it for sure. Eddie, thank you so much for the donation. Eddie says, can interested teams talk to Snell before a trade to see what he's thinking with his option? Scherzer telling Texas he'd opt in last year. Let's see here. Can interested teams to before a trade to see what he's thinking with his no, I mean, no, they really can't. No, you can't go out of your way to try to talk to a player. That won't happen. No, what the team will do is they'll talk to the player and his agent, and they'll try to figure out and say, hey, this team, has an interest level, but they would be more interested if you're willing, talking about what's your status with the option. I can tell you that Blake Snell will not have a decision with his option until the season is done, but I promise you that how he performs for the rest of the year going into postseason play, should he be on a playoff contending team, will directly go in hand with that decision as well. Again, if he's dominating, he's going to be looking for a bag, and it will be warranted, because you'll say, oh, he didn't pitch all last season, but it didn't matter because when he was pitching, he was brilliant, right? So that's what he will use in his favor, looking for a bigger payday, I'm sure. Would you rather play Dodgers or Phillies in playoffs? I'd appreciate the lack of spam there, Tryhard. Thank you so much. Between the Dodgers and the Phillies, this is tough, because on one hand, the Dodgers have a tendency to choke quite a bit. On the other hand, the Phillies are destined to have a deep run. We know that. They're so hungry for one. The Mets have also had a lot of success against the Phillies. I'm going to say Phillies. I'm going to say Phillies because even though the Phillies might actually be the more difficult opponent, which is crazy to say, but they actually might be there between themselves and the Dodgers based on the Dodgers' injuries this year and based on how the Phillies were in the dance 2 years ago and were just shy of getting there again last year with the D-backs spoiling their party. Now you enter the Mets-Phillies rivalry. I haven't seen that at the playoff level. I want to see it at the playoff level. That would get me absolutely juiced up electric. It would be ridiculous between the two fan bases. I live in Pennsylvania. I'm just over an hour off the turnpike from Citizens Bank Park. I will be there for a Mets-Phillies game this September where they play each other like at least 7 times it feels like in the past final 2 weeks of the season. A lot of games between the Mets and Phillies are coming up. I would go Phillies there for sure. Definitely would go Phillies. Absolutely. Max reunion, yeah, Max Scherzer reunion is not happening. And give me 1 second, everybody, and then we will continue on. Okay, let's see here. Last time was politics guy. Well, appreciate that, Keto. Thank you. Let's see here. Let's see what's up in the chat, everybody. Just restretch out Budo. I mean, that's what they're trying to do. That's what they're considering. But again, Jose Budo is another mid rotation option for you. He's gonna have to prove it the way that Budo proved it right now that we have seen as a multi-in reliever being nails for the Mets. We got to see more of that, and I firmly believe the Mets are in the best position to still acquire a starter. Yes, you're going to have to give up some key assets, but flex your financial flexibility, because that is in part why the Mets didn't spend as much this past offseason, because it kind of helped set them up for the trade deadline where they would have flexibility of one where it isn't as bad with the tax. And then you have all the dollars of all these rental options, these short-term pieces coming off the books this offseason. Good things are certainly going to happen there. Pay every dime of Baez's contract to get Schoolball at a discount. As brilliant as that sounds, James, I think even then Detroit would almost prefer maybe not to do that, because they want to get the best maximized return for Skubal. There's no reason for them to trade Skubal unless they want to get a haul of a prospect return to really help jumpstart them continuing this retool phase to push for a wild card spot next year. They're not far removed, but trading Tarek Skubal for a lesser package because of the Baez contract, I think would be a terrible decision by them to try to maximize their value, and I don't foresee them to do that at all. What do I think? Yeah, I just said that, Matthew, in regards to Javi Baez and everything on that front. Love Javi, El Mago, but that has come to an end, that relationship. I don't see it being rekindled anytime soon, because even eating that contract means he has to take up a roster. So, I mean, you could cut him right away, but yeah, no. Don't see that happening. But everybody, thank you all so much for watching. I cannot tell you all so much how much I enjoyed tonight's breakdown. I'm really, really looking forward to tomorrow's post game, along with prior the big trade deadline coverage that we will have. So rest assured, everybody, from now up until 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, any significant report or rumor that comes out, we will cover to an absolute T here on the channel, and I cannot wait to see you all there to react live with me, as we always do each every year. Final comment that I'm going to answer before I get out of here for you folks. Mikey says, Wardy, what is a prospect you don't want to give up but would understand if the Mets trade him? Good question. A prospect I don't want to give up but would understand if the Mets trade him would be one of Drew Gilbert or Jet Williams, just top prospects for the Mets. I do not want to see either dealt, especially in the case of Drew, but I understand why you would do that, because of Tarek Skubal and Garrett Crochet. These are guys that are warranted to do exactly that. If you're going to go and land a controllable dominant starter, you give up as much aspects of the farm that you have to. And that's why I don't see it happening, because the Mets farm isn't as good as the Orioles or the Dodgers, I would argue, and that is why we might find ourselves in a little bit of a tricky spot trying to get a controllable starter that good. Don't see ace caliber like that happening unless it's Blake Snell with his unique contract situation. But everybody, that is going to do it for your boy Wardy, because if you couldn't tell, even after a 15-2 victory, your boy can only be juiced up and amped up for only so long. I have to also make sure that I'm somewhat rested in case we have more breaking news that happens tonight. Again, not saying it's going to happen because it's 11:30 p.m. Eastern right now, but anything can happen from now until 6 p.m. tomorrow. So that's going to do it for your guy Wardy. We're going to wrap up the live show. Thank you all so much. Enzo just said it best. Get some rest. I appreciate that. And guys, I will see you all tomorrow. Again, trade deadline coverage will officially begin on the channel right around 3 p.m. Eastern, barring any changes. Obviously, with me being a new dad and everything, I need to see what my schedule is with the kiddo and make sure that the timing all lines up. But that's going to do it for me. Mets win a massive one. They slaughter. They take down the Minnesota Twins by a final score of 15-2, and they look to add, and maybe just add, a little bigger than you thought heading into the trade deadline. Thank you guys so much, and as always, no matter what, let's go Mets, baby.